Daniels' testimony. She is present and ready to be sworn in.
Yes.
Please state your full names for the record.
Suzanne Margaret Daniels.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that the evidence will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, DCJ. DCJ, before I proceed, I wish to place on record, for the purposes of clarity, because there has been great interest shown in the testimony of Ms. Daniels. I wish to explain, DCJ, that this round of testimony of Ms. Daniels will relate mainly to the suspension of the executives.
Yes.
The issues pertaining to transactions relating to Tegeta, Trillian, and McKinsey have not been forgotten. They will not be touched in this time of her testimony, but they are deferred to the second round of the Eskom hearings, which will come in due course.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Ms. Daniels, just for homekeeping aspects, you will have before you two lever arch files. Let me place them on record. These are the lever arch files that will be used. Chairperson is Eskom Bundle 08, bracket A, Exhibit U18.
Oh, okay. You are present. Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Oh, I think he forgot. Yeah, maybe for the sake of completeness, if there are other counsel, you can just indicate, or they can just place themselves on record.
Thank you, Chair. You may, sir.
Just switch on the mic. Yes.
Sean Efferman from Efferman Attorneys, appearing on behalf of Suzanne Daniels.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I don't think there's any more, Chair.
No, there isn't. You see, when Mr. Ngwato was talking, I couldn't see where he was talking from.
Yes.
But that's because I think this light puts him in a
That's
dark.
right.
Yeah, but I don't think much can be done about the light, and he doesn't need to move. You don't need to shift, Mr. Ngwato. It's okay. It's just that I took some time trying to see where the voice was coming from. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue.
I may proceed. That's, I was placing on record Eskom Bundle 08, bracket A, Exhibit U18, and Eskom Bundle 08, bracket B.
The bracket B1 is the smaller one.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Daniels, do you confirm you have the two files in front of you?
Yes, I do.
You do. Thank you. Just quickly, Ms. Daniels, if you go to the index in bundle 08, bracket A, which is the bigger of the two files, there is an index, and in the interest of time, I would like you to confirm that you have already made a statement or submitted a statement to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee way back in 2017 when it was doing its investigation. Correct. That statement is item 1.3 in the index. Submission by Suzanne Daniels to the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
That statement is contained on page 58. Page 58 in this bundle. To page,
You told her about the red and the black, huh?
the red chairperson, the pagination, Ms. Daniels, is the red one at the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner. So that's the numbers I will only be referring you to. To page 83.
That is correct,
You see
Mr.
that?
Chairman.
And then you also testified before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. They have produced a transcript, which you find on page 84 of this bundle to page 127. It's dated 8 November 2017.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
You have provided two affidavits to this commission. You have the main affidavit and a supplementary affidavit. For purposes of what I've taken you through, I want to refer you to your supplementary affidavit, which is contained on pages 50 of the same bundle to 57. The 57, you see that?
Yes, I do.
You confirm your signature
Yes, I confirm my signature, Mr. Chairman.
and the date of the supplementary affidavit being 1 September 2020.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
If you please go to page 52, 52, paragraph 7.2. There you state in your affidavit, I stand by the testimony in Parliament, save for the correction of the date, on meeting with Mr. Salim Essa in Melrose Arch for the first time on 10 March 2015. The testimony you are referring to is the one contained in the transcript I've referred to.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. The Commission's investigators actually, when we consulted, pointed out to me by virtue of phone records that we got the date wrong in Parliament.
So is that the only change you wish to make in regard to your testimony in Parliament?
Yes, that's correct.
Other than that, you stand by what you said in Parliament.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Daniel. So, Ms. Daniels, you have agreed to assist the Commission insofar as the Eskom board took decisions to suspend the top executives. Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Just before we go into that, you can go back to the main affidavit, which you found on page 1 of your bundle. I simply want to place on record your career progression within Eskom.
Before you do that,
Thank you, Chair.
Do you want me to admit this affidavit? Because she has confirmed that it's her signature at the end of the affidavit, isn't it? And that this is her affidavit before
Yes,
the
Chair.
commission. Do you want me to admit that at this
Let's,
stage?
yes. Ms. Daniels, sorry, Chair. Ms. Daniels, let's do likewise in respect of this affidavit as we did in respect of the supplementary. On page 21, the affidavit runs from page 1 to 21. Page 21, that's the last page with the signatures on it. Do you confirm the signature of the deponent, that it is your signature?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I confirm that that is my signature.
And the date you signed is 17 August 2020.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
So this is indeed your affidavit.
Yes, indeed it is.
Then you, thank you, Chair.
You request that it be admitted and marked as exhibit, what, U18?
Let's see. As
Or
exhibit
U18A,
18.1, Chair.
18.1?
Yes.
The affidavit of Ms. Suzanne Margaret Daniels, appearing at page 1 and deposed to on the 17th of August 2020, is admitted and will be marked as exhibit U 18.1.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay? And then we'll admit the others as we go along.
Indeed, Chairperson.
Okay?
While we are at it, yeah, I think as we go along, I thought we could admit the supplementary now,
Let's do that.
yeah, as U 18.2.
And where is it again?
It's item 1.2, page 50.
Page 50.
50, yes.
And the supplementary affidavit of Ms. Susan Margaret Daniels, appearing at page 50 and deposed to on, what is the date again? On the 1st of,
1st September 2020.
on the 1st of September 2020 is admitted and will be marked as exhibit U
U 18.2.
18.2.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair, then it is her written submission to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on page 58 to 83 to be admitted as exhibit U 18.3.
The Ms. Susan Daniels' statement appearing at page 58 will be admitted as an exhibit and will be marked as exhibit U 18.3.
Then we have also referred to her transcript at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. That starts on page 84.
85.
84. And we ask that it be admitted as exhibit U 18.4.
The transcript of the evidence of Ms. Suzanne Daniels before the Portfolio Committee in Parliament will be admitted and marked exhibit U 18.4. Okay?
The others will be
We'll
admitted
deal
as
with
we
as
go
we
along.
go along. Okay?
Ms. Daniels, page 1, of your affidavit deals with your personal details. Paragraph 3 with your qualifications, which includes Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Laws, and postgraduate diploma in law. You see that at the end of that page.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Slicker,
Yes, Chair.
are you going to announce that you won't lead her evidence in regard to everything?
Yeah.
Because she has given evidence under oath in Parliament.
Correct.
We've got the transcript in front of us.
Indeed.
She has, we've got her statement in Parliament. We've got 2 statements from her, but that you will focus on certain issues.
Indeed, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, that I was going to touch on.
Oh,
But now that the chairperson has reminded me, Ms. Daniels, and for the sake of the viewers as well, because I've taken you through your submissions at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, referred to your transcript, the purpose for that was to have that placed on record before us so that we do not have to traverse your evidence as it is already given. So we will, in this hearing, be focusing on the issues that we need clarity on for the purposes of this commission. So we may not touch on everything, but for context, you are at liberty, if you want, to tell the chairperson so that he understands the context, to elaborate on certain things.
Understand.
You understand that? Yeah. Thank you, chairperson. The information will, in any event, be made available on the Commission's website, so whoever needs to have access to it, chairperson, will find it there. So quickly, Ms. Daniels, looking at your job projection within Eskom, you say you were employed at Eskom for the first time. 1 May 2006, you joined Eskom as the Chief Legal Advisor in Generation Primary Energy. You will just
That is
indicate-
correct,
That is
Mr.
correct. April 2007, you were appointed into the position Acting Contracts Manager, Primary Energy Fuel Procurement.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
April 2008, you became a Senior Manager, Contracts in Coal, Water and Gas.
That's correct.
Is that a
until-
division, Coal, Water and Gas?
It was still in the primary energy division, Mr. Chairman.
You remained in that position until January 2010.
Yes, that's correct. Eskom underwent a restructuring at that time, and I moved across to Group Commercial.
You then became a Managing Director in Primary Energy Division.
That's incorrect, Mr. Chair. Not a managing director. I was the senior manager in the office of the group
Senior
executive.
Manager. I see. Just correct it again. You say you were the Senior Manager?
In the office of the group executive for group technology and commercial.
Is that in February 2010?
Yes.
Who
that,
did-
that
Say,
would have
sorry.
been from 2010
Yeah.
onwards.
Who did you account to?
well, the statement says in 2011, Senior Manager, Office of the Group Executive in 2011.
My apologies. I stayed in primary energy. I then moved to group commercial. My first boss was Dan Marokani. We moved together from primary energy to group commercial.
And then 11 April 2015, you became a Senior Manager in the office of the Chairperson of the Board.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Was that a formal appointment?
At the time, it was not a formal appointment, Mr. Chairman. I do go into it a bit later, but if you wish me to answer it now?
Yes.
I just want to find the
You want the
reference.
paragraph where
The
you're dealing
relevant
with this?
part.
It's paragraph 47 of my affidavit,
Yes,
the main affidavit, and it's on page 11.
yes, you can just say what it says
Okay.
without
So-
reading it if you don't need to read it.
Okay. So on the 9th of April, the acting chairman of the board, Mr. Dr. Benungubani, called myself and Leo Dlamini, who was the manager in the office of the chairman, to his office, and actually just told us that I would be taking over. So that's how it happened. So on the 11th of April, I then worked with Leo to transfer information, transfer duties.
So who is Leo?
Leo Dlamini was the senior general manager in the office of the chairman at the time. Mr. Totsini's evidence did refer to him as the manager there.
Yes. When Dr. Benungubani asked you to become a senior manager in his office, what was your position?
I was the senior manager in the office of the group executive, group commercial.
And who was that?
That at the time it was Machela Koko, but he was acting and he had been suspended.
And according to your affidavit, you become the company secretary from 1 October 2015.
Yes, that's correct.
So then you hold a dual position, senior manager in the office of the chairperson and the position of company secretary.
I actually didn't. The responsibilities for the chairman's office in terms of correspondence was dealt with by the office of the chief executive. I then just dealt with the other matters pertaining to the office of the chairman. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I handled the liaison with the ministry, the Department of Public Enterprises, more particularly the minister's office, and then attended to the board duties of the chairman, the administrative issues that he needed to deal with.
So you held the position of company secretary from 1 October 2015 to 27 July 2017.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. When was your dismissal?
20th of July 2018, Mr. Chair.
20 July
Yes.
2018. You were also the acting head of legal. And according to the affidavit, that was from the 1st of September 2016.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair.
And for how long did you hold that position, acting position?
I think it was until the 27th of July 2017, Mr. Chair.
If your dismissal came a year later, what happened? What was your position in the intervening period from 27 July 2017 to 20 July 2018?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'm going to have to give you some context. I was then the head of legal and compliance. The 27th of July 2017 was quite significant because it was the first board meeting of, I think, the COSA board in Eskom. And it is at this meeting that I was told, well, prior to that, weeks prior, while I was on leave, it was announced at a board breakaway that I needed to choose between being company secretary and head of legal. I was overseas at the time. So when I came back, this was the first board meeting that was held, and the issue was raised again by the board, and I was then told to choose. And I chose to become the head of legal and compliance. And that's why the 27th of July is, it's an odd date, but it was, and what was more dramatic, that it was actually with immediate effect. Even though it had an impact on the governance, arrangements in Eskom, it was immediate effect that I was relieved of my company secretarial duties.
Okay, so from then on, you became the head of legal.
Yes, that is correct.
You were no longer acting, you were now permanent head of legal.
That is correct. I was
Okay.
permanent.
Before I go into the suspensions, there are emails that we have looked at, exchanged between yourself, Dr. Ngubane, and what has been referred to as the businessman. These emails came up during your disciplinary hearing, Businessman Info Portal. You said at the disciplinary hearing, the ruling I read, that you were told by Dr. Ngubane in April 2015 that the email belongs to Mr. Richard Seleke. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do recall that, but I do need to correct it, Mr. Chairman. The chronology is incorrect. It was actually, it was April 2016, not 2015.
When he told you that?
Yeah, because the emails in question at the disciplinary hearing are in 2016.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Mr. Seleke.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chief.
Seleke, take it from there.
Thank you, Chair. So you're saying he told you in April 2016?
Mr. Chair, I'm not certain of when he told me, but I do know that he told me that it was the DG's email.
Do you recall when it was that you started sending or receiving emails to businessmen or info portal email address?
The first email that I have in my records was when I replied to all. Subsequent emails have come out here in the commission that I've watched. And it seems that it started in 2015, late 2015.
Yes, that's the one that you regard as the first.
Yes, that Dr. Ngubane forwarded to me.
Yes. Now, prior to Dr. Ngubane forwarding that email to you, had you not sent any emails to businessmen or info portal that email address?
Not that I have in my records,
Yes.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
had you not received any emails from that email address?
It does appear that there were some that were forwarded to me.
Yes. But had you become aware of them before Dr. Ngubane forwarded that one to you?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I can't say that they weren't in my inbox. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry?
I can't say that they weren't in my inbox.
Yes,
But I didn't I took them at face value at that time.
So you were aware of them?
Yes.
Yes, and when would that have been, as you recall? Obviously, I'm not looking for an exact date, but I want to have an idea of when it was, month and year, or around about which months?
The first, from the evidence that has come out, and that what I've been made aware of, it was late 2015.
Late 2015?
Yes.
I think from the on the day that Dr. Ngubane was giving evidence, I think a reference was made to, if I'm not mistaken, some emails that may have happened somewhere mid-year 2015, around July, June, if I'm not mistaken.
It was 28 September 2015.
And then there is one for September. But my recollection is that before the September one, that there was one or more earlier than September 2015. Does anything earlier than September sound like something that you know nothing about?
I haven't seen them, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to, categorically say.
Yes. So but whatever communications you had with this businessman info portal, or that you sent to whoever was on the other end, is the position that some of the emails that you sent to this email address, you sent on your own, but others you sent because Dr. Ngubane asked you to send them? Or is the position that all the emails that you sent were sent because you made the decision to send them, you were not asked by anybody to send them?
They were usually part of a conversation regarding some subject matter that we were dealing with. The one was about a media statement. I think both were about media statements.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it will be better that Mr. Selega goes to each one of those emails,
Yes,
so that
Chair.
we can, you can also have a look at them and have,
Yes.
excuse
Ms.
me,
Daniels, the
refresh
emails-
your memory.
Sorry, Chair.
No, I'm saying so that she can refresh her memory as well.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Ms. Daniels, the emails are in the second file, 08, Eskom bundle 08, bracket B, page 944.
Did you say 944?
9444.
944.
944, Chair. Page 944.
So, yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, I am.
At the bottom of the page, it's an email from businessman dated 28 September 2015 at 4:41 p.m. to Baldwin.Ngubane, subject, forward for chairpersons. So, sir, documents as discussed. So that's 4:41 p.m. Immediately above that, it's an email from Baldwin.Ngubane. The email address is baldwin.ngubane@gmail.com. It's sent on Monday, 28 September 2015 at 5:23 p.m. to Suzanne Daniels, forwarding for chairpersons. The email immediately above that, it's from yourself, Suzanne Daniels. Daniel sm@eskom.co.za. It's on Monday, 28 September 2015 at 17:47. It's to Baldwin.Ngubane. The subject is re, so that's a reply. For chairpersons, the attachment 2809-2015 BOD, round robin resolution. What does BOD stands for? Board of Directors.
Board of Directors.
Now, the document, Ms. Daniels, and I'll ask questions on this, on the emails. The document that Dr. Ngubane says would have been attached to these emails is on page 948. It's contained on page 948 and 949, dated 28 September 2015, reference number round robin, has the numbers referred to there, 28/9/2015. The board, attention, dear members, urgent request to approve the suspension of contact and or commercial relationship with Mail and Guardian, City Press and Sunday Times on a round robin. Now, Dr. Ngubane said he recalls this document having been sent to several SOEs. He mentioned Transnet Eskom. The document on the face of it, on page 949, also shows that it would have been sent to Denel. Do you recall this document?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair.
So do the emails jolt your memory in regard to this exchange we see in the emails relative to this document?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chair.
So, is your recollection that in September 2015, that was the first time you became aware of this email address of businessmen or info portal? Or were you already aware of it?
I think it was this would have been around about the first time that I've seen it, Mr. in direct correspondence like this. I can't pinpoint. 2015 was such a
You
fact,
can't
yeah.
remember whether it was the first time you became aware of this
Yeah.
email address in September 2015?
15, that's correct.
Yes. But it would seem here that on the 28th of September, Dr. Ngubane forwarded to you documents that had come from that email address, businessman.
Yes, that's correct.
That's right. And you do recall this occasion?
Yes, he would have phoned me and said, I've sent you an email.
Yes, yes. Do you recall what you did with them after receiving them? Or what he wanted you to do with them?
I would have prepared the document that you see on page 945.
You would?
I would have prepared the document that you see on 945.
So the document appearing at page 945 was prepared by you,
Yes,
and that goes up to 946. Is that where it ends?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Silega.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we may want to read on record the contents of the two documents.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's important. Ms.
Yeah.
Daniels, if you go back to page 948, back to what I believe is a draft. Is that correct? Page 948.
That's correct.
I believe is a draft, and this person is writing to not only Eskom, but the other SOEs to adopt this as a draft of the board.
That's correct.
Now, the document reads, urgent request to approve the suspension of contact and or commercial relationship with Mail and Guardian, City Press and Sunday Times on a round robin. Introduction. On the 28th September 2015, the chairperson received a letter from the Minister of Public Enterprise, enclosing the letter from the chairperson of Transnet and resolution of the Transnet board. So, Chair, if you look at, and we want to compare paragraph by paragraph, if you go back to page 945, Ms. Daniels, you have that heading, the urgent request to approve, which I've already read, and introduction, and then the first paragraph. It says, on the 28th September 2015, the chairperson received a letter from the Minister of Public Enterprise enclosing the letter from the chairperson of Transnet and resolution of the Transnet board. These are attached as annexures here too. So I could do that, or you could say to the chairperson, the documents are essentially the same, chairperson, and I simply copied and paste for the purposes of the resolution of the board of Transnet. I mean, the board of Eskom. Or should I go through it?
No, that's not necessary, Mr. Chair. That is indeed what happened.
Yes, let's just make sure we have a complete understanding of the documents that were attached to businessman's email to Dr. Ngubane. One, you say it is the document appearing at page 948, is that right?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
That's a draft letter which is meant to be addressed to, I quote, the board, close quotes. Is that right?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Now, when that was the one document, is there another document that was attached to businessman's email that he directed to Dr. Ngubane? Or was this the only document that was attached?
Mr. Chair, I can't remember if it was attached to the email.
Yes.
But when I prepared the document, there were the letters from, there was a letter from the chairman of Transnet,
Yes.
which indicated, it was addressed to the Minister of Public Enterprises, Ms. Lynn Brown.
Yes.
And it indicated that Transnet was going to withdraw its media spend and its media participation with all of the publications mentioned.
With City Press, Mail and Guardian and Sunday Times.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. What other document was attached?
It was a letter.
Letter from the chairperson of the Transnet
The
board.
I think it was Ms. Linda Mabaso.
Yeah, addressed to the minister.
To the Minister of
Public
Public
Enterprises. Yes. What else was attached?
And
This draft at page 948, was it also part of was it attached?
and I say a resolution of the Transnet board. So there ought to have been
A resolution
a
of the
formal
Transnet
resolution,
board.
a formal document.
Yes, okay.
Those were the two attachments.
Those were the two attachments.
That I would have attached.
Okay.
To this
Mr.
one.
Selega, do we have them here in the bundle?
We don't have
We don't have those
those.
two.
No.
Okay, all right. Would you be able to facilitate getting them, or you would not have access to anything?
I will definitely check my records, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I
Whether you can find them,
still
yeah.
have them.
So
But,
this draft letter at page 948, which was meant for the company secretary, to be addressed to the board, and I think it was meant to be addressed to the boards of different SOEs. How did it come? Did it come to your attention at the time, around 28 September 2015?
I would go on these documents, Mr. Chair, and I would say, yes, it did.
Yes.
What I do recall, that this was not actually a round robin.
Sorry?
This didn't become a round robin decision. This actually became a meeting.
Yes, but who drafted this document?
This
This letter?
Which letter? Just
The one
clarify.
at page 948.
Yeah,
That I'm not clear about. That I'm not clear about.
You're
That
not clear who drafted it?
I'm not sure who drafted that.
And you were not company secretary at that time?
No, I was not.
Okay, but you say you became aware of it around about the end of September?
It would have been end of September because it was sent to me from
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Ngubane.
But you can't remember how it may have come to you?
No, from here it was forwarded to me.
From Dr. Ngubane?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do you recall what Dr. Ngubane said you must do with it?
Well, he asked me to prepare the document which you see on 945.
He asked you to prepare the document at page 945
Yes.
and attached the document at page 948
Those,
to assist you.
yes.
Okay. Did it speak about the document at page 948 in particular?
Not that I recall,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, not in so many words. He just
But-
asked me to use that as the basis.
Or to use that as a basis to prepare
This document.
the document at page 945.
Yes,
And that is what you did.
that is what I did.
And as a result, the document you prepared at 945 to 946 is, except for one or two differences, basically identical to the one that he sent you.
Yes, it's just that I subsequently found out, if you look at page 950, is the way that Transnet did its resolutions.
Yes.
And ours was slightly different. So that is why it is in 945, it is done in that particular format.
But the substance is the same.
The substance is the same.
Yeah, actually, most of it seems to be identical.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and what is the document at page 945? Who was it addressed to and for what purpose?
This was addressed to the board to make the resolution
Yeah,
that you see at the bottom of page 945,
yes.
which
And-
says,
and that-
Eskom shall suspend any dealings.
Would it be correct that you prepared the document at page 945 in order to give effect or implement what is written in the document that Dr. Ngubane, that you say Dr. Ngubane sent to you, which is at page 948?
That is correct,
Yes,
Mr. Chair.
okay. Mr. Slegger.
thank you, Chair. Ms. Daniels, you were saying explaining to the chairperson that what ultimately transpired is that the resolution was adopted but not by way of round robin, but in an actual meeting.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. There was actually a special meeting called to deal with the media. I'm trying to think of the correct word. I think it was described as a media onslaught at the time, and that these specific publications were identified by the board as not favorable to Eskom.
Yes. Okay, I think Mr. Slegger, earlier on you wanted to either read or ask
Yes.
the witness to read the document at page 948. I think that is a good idea.
Is that a good idea?
There might not be a need to read the one at 945
Thank you.
because she has said that that was meant to implement or give effect to the document at page 948 that she had received from Dr. Nkubani.
Yes, Chair.
But I think let's have that one read into the record.
Thank you.
So that also whoever is listening or viewing can understand the context of the two, or the content of the two documents.
Thank you. Ms. Daniels, let's go back to page 948. I've read the paragraph immediately under introduction, so I'll move on to the second paragraph. It starts, City Press, Mail, Guardian, and Sunday Times in the recent past. Let's see whether they repeated that mistake here. Did you repeat the mistake? Yeah, it doesn't have Mail and Guardian. It's Mail Guardian. You see that? City Press, Mail, Guardian, and Sunday Times in the recent past have published stories in their respective papers making unsubstantiated allegations of fraudulent conducts, maladministration, and corruption against officials of the sister state-owned companies. The sisters state-owned companies. What is that, Ms. Daniels?
What was your understanding of what that was?
Mr. Chip, do I go into detail now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Tell the chairperson.
Mr. Chairman, there was actually a conversation between the minister and the chairpersons about the media treatment of, when they talk about sister companies, they're talking about Eskom, Transnet, Denel. I think those were the main ones at the time that were being bombarded in the newspaper.
But
And
it's written as sister apostrophe S state-owned.
yes,
State-owned.
it is supposed to
It
be,
doesn't say sister companies or sister state-owned companies. It says
It was-
sisters.
yes, it was actually the state-owned companies that were within the portfolio of the Department of Public Enterprises. And that is what it was meant to say, sister state-owned companies.
Okay. Shall I carry on, Chair? They have selected to not report on the verifiable responses provided by the relevant SOCs. SOCs irresponsibly publish gossip and sensationalism without any regard for fact. The above form of reporting by the three newspapers is misled. Now I want to check whether that mistake is also repeated. It's misled to the members.
It is.
Is it exactly there?
correct, yeah.
Yes, the above form of reporting by the three newspapers is misled to members of public. That's on page 945. That's the resolution subsequently adopted.
Did you understand that you had to reproduce it like that? Exactly as it is.
Mr. Chair, I don't actually have a recollection of, the copying and pasting and the thing. I recognize the Transnet documents.
Yes.
I recall the letters from the minister, my apology, I recall the letters from Mrs. Mabasu. I recall the conversations that the chairman had with the Minister of Public Enterprises.
So what is it that you can't recall?
I'm not sure if I would have corrected this later.
Oh, but I thought you said earlier on you prepared the document at page 945.
Well, I'm not sure what version this is,
Yeah.
so this would have been a copy and paste.
Yes.
Okay, so I would,
But you may have had different versions.
yes.
But
that's-
whatever version this one is,
This is the,
quite clearly is taken from the document at page 948.
that I agree
Yes.
with. Yes, yes, so I'm not, there may have been corrections to the grammar and those things, but the base document would have come from document 948.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Slega was highlighting is that even that you appear to have just taken it as it is in the true sense. Including how they formulated what they must have intended was just mislead the public. Continue, Mr. Slega.
Thank you, Chair. The above form of reporting by the three newspapers is misled to members of public and is intended to influence public perception.
Or unless they meant to say has misled. Or would that make sense, Mrs. Slega, or not really? No, then the two after misled would not.
Yeah, Chair, I don't, what the businessman wrote, I will not want to correct. I'll leave it as it is.
Yeah, okay, yes.
And it's intended to influence public perception that state-owned companies are corrupt and guilty of stealing public funds. If this negative trend by the three newspapers is not challenged, it will cause irreparable damage to the roles of the state-owned companies in assisting government in job creation and economic growth. It is therefore important that the state-owned companies, now you will see that it's missing the ED there. The state-owned companies should collectively suspend any dealings with the above three newspapers until such time they provide verifiable proof supporting the allegations referred to above. Then the proposed resolution follows. Resolve that 1. Denel/Eskom hereby suspend any dealings. B. Placing advertising or any other commercial relationship with Mail and Guardian, Sunday Times, and City Press, pending the resolution of the complaints that the state-owned entities have against the three newspapers, until such time they provide verifiable proof supporting the allegations referred to above. Yours faithfully. Ms. Daniels, do you recall, I mean, the chairperson was asking whether changes, or I think you were explaining to him whether changes would have been made to this draft, which was literally taken from this draft and put on the Eskom document for the purposes of the board resolution. Do you recall whether you went through the document, read through the document, prior to you placing it on Eskom document for the purposes of the board?
I'm not sure, Mr. Seleke. I remember these
Seleka.
documents. Oh,
Yeah. Mr. Sileke is coming here.
my my apology, Advocate Seleka. I remember these documents, the Transnet documents.
The reason I'm asking that question is because when you go back to that page, which is on the board's resolution, the portion of the resolution doesn't have Denel. So Denel is deleted. You do have only Eskom shall suspend any dealings. So somebody would have read to notice that, hey, I need to delete reference to Denel. Any recollection? that you would have done that?
Apart from that, also, the document at page 948, particularly 949, reads Daniel stroke Eskom hereby suspend, whereas the one at 945 says Eskom shall suspend any dealings. So one gets the impression that either you or somebody on your behalf did look and decided what to leave out and what to include. Is that fair comment?
That's fair comment, Mr. Chairman.
Do you remember whether it was you?
I really can't recall. I would have to look at what
would
was
you-
attached to.
But would you have prepared the document at 945 without reading the document at 948? I'm saying prepared. Maybe it's not prepared. It's
Yeah.
just electronically just put it on to create exactly the same document and change here and there. Would you have done that without reading it and applying your mind to it?
Mr. Chairman, I'm a stickler for grammar.
Sorry?
I said I'm a stickler for grammar, so I would have corrected these mistakes. So that's why I'm saying I'm not sure if there were other versions.
Yes, but Dr. Ngubane, as I understand it, sent the document at page 948 to you. Is that right?
That's correct.
And he must have either given you instructions about what to do with it, or there was an understanding between the two of you as to what you should do with it. Is that right?
Yeah, he asked
What
me.
was that instruction, or what was that understanding?
He asked me to use these documents to prepare
The document
the
at page
document for the
945.
board. Yes,
Yes, and that's what you did.
and that's what I did.
So my question is, would you have done that without reading the document at page 948?
No, I would have read it.
You would have read
I would
it.
have read it.
Yes. Do you remember whether you made the changes that Mr. Slega and I have referred to on the part relating to resolution?
That I can't recall,
You can't recall.
but if I had
Yeah.
prepared the document,
Yeah.
then it's possible that I would. You know,
Yes.
I wouldn't say that I didn't. Well, I couldn't say that categorically right now.
Yes. Now, you said that you remember that the email that Dr. Ngubane forwarded to you on the 28th of September came with a letter from the chairperson of the Transnet Board to Minister Brown, as well as, did you say resolution?
Yes, there was a Transnet resolution.
A resolution. But you say you don't know whether it also came, that is the email from Dr. Ngubane to you. You don't remember whether it came with the document at page 948?
I don't recall if it was attached to this particular email.
Yes.
It may have been a subsequent email.
Yes, but you say in the end, you got it from Dr. Ngubane.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Would you know whether it's a document that he drafted? Dr. Ngubane, the document at page 948?
This would not be something that he would have drafted.
It's not the kind of document that he would have drafted.
No.
He gave evidence before me to the effect that he normally didn't prepare his speeches, his own speeches. I don't know what else he said he didn't prepare. He would have those prepared for him. Is that, to your knowledge, the correct thing, that he did not prepare his speeches as well?
He did not prepare his speeches from scratch, Mr.
Oh, I think
Chairman.
media statements was
Yes.
the other one, yeah.
There was a process within Eskom,
Yeah,
certainly during the time that I was in his office.
yeah,
What would occur would be that the executive responsible for that particular area
yeah.
would draft the
The media
content.
statement or speech.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it would be sent to the media department.
Yeah.
We had a dedicated communications department.
Yeah,
They would sort of make it media friendly.
yeah,
It would then come to me. I would look at it and check if it made sense, just
Yeah.
from someone who knew nothing about it. That was the test. And those questions or issues would then, I would raise them with the communications department and with the executive responsible and say, look, this is too technical, or, really do you expect the chairman to talk about this? These are the kinds of questions that would come from that. If it was something that, wasn't immediately able to be clarified, I would request them to brief Dr. Ngubane in any event. He also read through his speeches and made his own changes and amendments. Once the speech was finalized, he would get a copy of, this is the proposed speech. The media communications department would then prepare possible questions with answers. So there would be active participations from his side, because he would be the one presenting it.
yes. But you say he would not have prepared this document himself, this draft at page 948.
No, this would not have been prepared by him.
Yes. Why do you say that? What's the basis for saying that?
From my understanding, Mr. Chair, and my recollection, this was the Transnet template. This was the Transnet template.
So would it have been prepared by somebody else within Transnet?
Or
Eskom?
they may have used the Transnet template.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Sileka, it's just that I can't remember. I thought, I was under the impression that Dr. Ngubane accepted that this document came with the emails from businessmen, but I can't be sure. I don't know what your recollection is.
Yes, he did, Chair.
He did,
Yeah.
Yes.
He did
okay.
accept that. He recalled that the document was sent to
Yes.
various SCOs,
Yeah.
and that this was the one to
Yes.
Eskom.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
Continue.
thank you. Ms. Daniels, the meeting you say took place in respect of this document on page 945. Can you recall the date of that meeting?
I really can't recall. It would have been around this time, Mr. Chairman.
Is it your understanding of the document at page 948 that whoever drafted it was saying that the board of Eskom must take a certain stand against the three newspapers mentioned in that document, namely City Press, the Mail and Guardian, Mail Guardian, the Mail and
Sunday
Guardian,
Times.
and Sunday Times. Is that your understanding as well, that that person was saying the board of Eskom must take a certain stand, and actually the boards of other SOEs must do the same against the newspapers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that was my understanding.
Yes, and that this was to be in response to certain articles that were said to have been published in those newspapers about SOEs.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was my
Yes.
understanding, and that was what actually happened.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Siller.
Thank you, Chair. Do you think you would have the minutes of that meeting? Not now, but you could check for that.
I will definitely check.
And
But also, just going back, I'm sorry, Mr. Siller, going back to my question. So you have a situation where somebody, and if Dr. Ngobane's evidence is correct, and probably, or it certainly seems to be, if somebody using the businessman email address had drafted this letter, this document at page 948, that person wanted the Eskom board to take a certain position against those newspapers. Dr. Ngubane gave you the document at page 948 and asked you to prepare the document at 945, which would ask the board of Eskom to adopt exactly the position that whoever had drafted the letter at page 948 wanted to be adopted by the Eskom board.
Yes,
You accept that?
I accept that. That's
Yes.
exactly what happened.
Yes. And on your understanding, the person who drafted this, would that person have been within Eskom or outside of Eskom, or is that something you don't know?
Mr. Chairman, from the evidence and from my experience within Eskom, this is someone external to Eskom at the time.
This is somebody who was external to Eskom at the time.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Sile.
Ms. Daniels, did you know who is that person?
I did not know who that person was at the time.
So in September 2015, you didn't know who was that person?
No, Mr. Chair, I did not.
And was it strange to you that the chairperson of the board, I think he had been confirmed as chairperson at the time, Dr. Ngubane, in September 2015, was it strange to you that the chairperson was asking you to prepare a resolution that would be adopted by the board on the basis of a document that came from outside Eskom? Or was that not strange? That was something normal?
Mr. Chairman, at the time, I did not interrogate it as I would later.
You did not?
I did not interrogate it as I would later.
Yes, okay.
At that point in time, I took it at face value.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a reason why you took it at face value?
At that time, I was still the senior manager, and I honestly had no reason to believe that there was anything sinister in the activities of the chairman and in his conduct. You know, when you start a job, you always believe that people are good. And I did not have any reason at that stage to even suspect anything.
Well, we
Well,
have
I see
seen
we had got past Mr. Slega.
opportune time, Chair.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Let's take the chair adjournment. Am I wrong to think that there were other emails that you referred Dr. Ngubane to from businessmen that happened before September
It was,
2015?
it's actually June 2016, Chair.
Or is it June 2016?
That's actually June 2016.
Oh, okay, okay. So on what we have, September 2015 appears to be the earliest we
The
have.
earliest on
okay.
what we have been able to obtain.
Oh, okay, okay. We'll take the tea adjournment. We'll resume at 25 to 12.
Thank you, Chair.
Adjourn. Let's continue.
Chair, are you done with your questions?
I think so.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. Daniels, I had asked a question whether you knew who businessman was at the time of exchange of these emails.
No, I did not, Mr. Chairman.
Did you come to know about who businessman was?
In my disciplinary hearing, Mr. Chairman, my attorneys did an extensive search, and with the help of the organization called OUTER, it established that it was the DG Seleke,
It was?
Director General Richard Seleke. Based on my further reading that I have done and assessment of the evidence that has come out in the Gupta leaks, etc., it's my suspicion that it wasn't just one person. It was indeed an info portal. But I do suspect that one of the administrators of that email box was Salim Essa.
You say your attorneys, during your disciplinary action, did some research, and according to their research, they told you that it was Mr. Richard Seleke behind the name businessman.
They didn't just tell me, Mr. Chairman, we received IP addresses and I think it was technical data from OUTER.
You will obviously recall that the chairperson finds otherwise in his ruling. He finds that the email info portal most probably belonged to Mr. Essa.
Mr. Chairman, it was most probably. They also did not produce any evidence that it was indeed Mr. Essa's. What Eskom relied on in my disciplinary hearing was the emails from the discredited Machela Koko. So there was no direct evidence that it was, and he found that it may possibly have been Salim Essa.
Okay, let me know from you. Did you know who is the person behind the name businessman using the email address infoportal1?
No, I did not.
You say you were told by Dr. Ngubane that the email address for businessman email address infoportal belongs to Mr. Richard Seleke.
Yes, that is correct.
That would have been long before your disciplinary action at Eskom.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, these emails, if you followed the hearing of the testimony of Dr. Ngubane here before the commission, were exchanged with Dr. Ngubane September 2018 before Mr. Richard Seleke was appointed at DPE. His date of appointment was effective 27 November 2015. Did you know that?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Ngubane himself has said to the Commission that, in fact, he understood from you that the email is of Richard Seleke and not, he understood from you and not the other way around. You told him, not him telling you, that that is the email of Mr. Richard Seleke. Could you explain your comment to the chairperson on that?
Mr. Chairman, it's clear from the emails that Dr. Ngubane introduced the info portal email into the system.
That is assuming that the email at the bottom of page 944 from businessman to Dr. Ngubane was the first one.
Assuming, but in my experience, what was introduced to me,
And
that,
also assuming that you had not received any email from businessmen prior to that.
yes,
You are able to say you had not received any emails or sent any emails. You had not received any mails from and had not sent emails to businessmen before that email at the bottom of page 944 that came from businessmen and was directed to Dr. Ngubane.
not that I could find on my system.
Okay, Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chair. You see, and what this commission has been able to obtain through the Fundutsi report is that on 21st June 2015, Mr. Richard Seleka, using an email address blueberries.slk@gmail.com, he sent his CV. This is prior to him being appointed to the DPE. He sent his CV to Info Portal 1 on Sunday, 21 June 2015. And he says, "Evening, sir. Please find attached my CV and supporting documents regards Richard that you find on page 1042 of Eskom Bundle 08B. (1042) at the bottom of the page, Ms. Daniels, you see that email, blueberries.slk@gmail.com. It's from that email address to email address infoportal1@zoho.com. The subject is Richard CV. The email is sent at 22:32. That's 28 minutes before 11 at night. You see that?
Yes, I see that.
And the email immediately above that, it's a forwarding email. The forwarding email from businessman, in inverted commas, the email is infoportal1@zoho.com. Date is 21 June 2015 at 8:34 p.m. Subject forward Richard CV. And it's sent to ankimcwc@gmail.com. And that email address, if you look at the email above, seems to belong to Miss Kimberly Davids. And businessman writes, "Hi, madam. As per sir, this is the candidate for DG. Is it possible for him to meet madam on Tuesday? Regards." So businessman forwards Mr. Richard Seleka's CV to, on the face of it, appears to be Kimberly Davids. And he says this is a candidate for DG.
And I think Kimberly Davids is understood to have been someone working in the office of the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Brown. I don't know whether it's a PA or something else, but is understood to be somebody who was working in Minister Brown's office.
Mr. Chairman, she was the executive assistant. She was the executive assistant to Minister Brown.
She was the executive assistant to, okay. And you knew at the time at the time that you were working at Eskom in 2015, 2016, did you know her to use this email address of ancKimWC@gmail.com?
No, I did not.
Oh, but you knew that Kimberly Davids was Minister Brown's executive assistant.
Yes, I did, because I had to liaise with
Liaise with her.
on issues relating
Okay.
to meetings, etc.
Okay. So it appears that Mr. Richard Seleke sent to infoportal1@zoho.com on 21 June 2015 his CV to that email address, and that on the same day in the evening, a businessman or somebody from that address, email address, then sent an email to Ms. Kimberly Davids in the office of Minister Brown, saying, enclosing the CV of Mr. Richard Seleke, and saying this is the candidate for DG, and DG would be Director General, and asking whether it would be possible for Madam to meet Mr. Seleke on Tuesday. I take it Madam refers to Minister Brown. Mr. Seleke, I think you had put a question to the witness, but I just summarized
Yes.
what appears at page 1042.
Thank you, Chairperson. Ms. Daniels, the position of DG, is that the position that Mr. Seleke ultimately was appointed into,
Yes, that is correct, Chairman.
at DPE,
He was the Director General.
Director General at DPE? I see then the email at the top of the page is from Ms. Kimberly Davids. That email address which Infoportal used, ancKimWC@gmail, and that she seems to be forwarding to herself, now at an official address, kim.davids@dpe.gov.za on the 23rd of June, 2015. And the subject is Forward Richard CV. There's an attachment referred to as Mohokari CV .doc qualifications PDF. You see that?
That's correct. I see that. Confirm.
Now, on the face of this exchange, it would appear that businessman and Richard Seleke are two different persons. Any comment on that? Do you see that?
I see that on the face, Mr. Chairman, and that is why I say that, it is my suspicion that this was used as an information portal, this particular inbox, and that it was not managed by just one person.
But do you or do you not accept that on the face of it, it appears that the person who forwarded Mr. Richard Seleke's CV to Ms. Kimberly Davids appears to be somebody other than Mr. Richard Seleke himself?
That I accept. But later on, Richard Seleke himself uses that very
Yes.
inbox.
Yes.
You see, so
Yeah.
that is one of those reasons why I say to you that I don't think that it was one person that used this info portal address. We just don't have enough proof
How do you know that Richard Seleka used it?
There were emails in the Gupta leaks and
No.
outer.
No, I'm asking you, how do you know that Richard Seleka used it?
There was an email in the outer bundle that they gave us, which was from Info Portal, signed "Best regards, Richard."
Okay. Would you have that email?
Yes, it was part of our evidence bundle. At the disciplinary.
And tell me, just repeat that again. What did it say?
I can't remember the details now, Mr. Chairman, but it did say "Best regards, Richard."
An email from Info Portal.
Yes.
When was that?
I would have to ask my attorneys.
Well, let's look at this further, because Van Doetsie has another correspondence between Kimberly Davids and Businessman. Page 1032. These are exhibits, as you can see from the report itself. 1032. You're there, Ms. Daniels?
Yes, I am.
Now, the bottom email again, which is 16 July 2015. It's from Kimberly Davids with that email address of gmail.com. 16 July 2015. The subject is forward, Travan's CV to businessman, info portal 1 at Zoho. And here she explicitly writes, "Dear Salim, herewith CV for Alesco board as discussed." And she's not writing to Richard. You see that?
Yes, I see that.
So all the more, all the more giving credence to the conclusion that businessman and Mr. Richard Seleke are two different persons. But this email takes it further. The email takes it further. It in fact uncovers the face behind businessmen. Do you have any comment, Ms. Daniels?
Mr. Chairman, I still have, based on what my experience was, I cannot discount that Salim Essa was one of the people that had access to this box. But it is still my suspicion that there was more than one person handling this box.
And that leaves one, if you look at this correspondence, before Mr. Seleke is appointed DG in the office at the Department of DPE. Two things. One is, it puts a big question mark on the explanation that he would have been the one having interest in the affairs of Eskom. Because at this stage, he would have been the one having interest in the affairs of Eskom as a DG of the DPE. Because at this stage, he's not in that position. He's not in that department. So that's a big question mark on that explanation. Because Dr. Ngubane says it was an explanation you gave to him, and he didn't have a problem with it, because it's an interest expressed by the DG of a department that oversees the SOEs. Now, I can let you comment on that first, and then I can go to the next point.
Well, all I can say is that it was from Dr. Ngubane that this was the DG. And I took it at face value.
So Dr. Ngubane says you told him he's the DG, he's Richard Seleka, he has an interest, they want to see the media statements before they are published because they see them for the first time once published and he wants to know beforehand. And that was your explanation. What do you say about that? Just that portion? Did you say that to him?
I didn't say that to him, but that did happen when it was in fact, when it was major media statements. The DPE did one cite because Minister Brown was not impressed, to use a colloquial term, that when she saw the media statements for the first time in the media, and that she hadn't been briefed or had input. So on major issues, she had wanted to see them beforehand.
Minister Brown?
Minister Brown, yes.
No, I'm talking the DG now.
Well, he would have been the one handling the issues on her behalf.
Sorry, who raised the concern? Is it the minister or is it the DG?
In my recollection, the minister raised these.
Not the DG.
Not the DG.
Did you tell Dr. Ngubane that the DG raised the concern?
In the email that we got?
No. Did you tell Dr. Ngubane, you personally, saying to him, the person behind the email businessman is Mr. Richard Seleka, and this is the reason why he's corresponding with us?
No, I did not.
So you maintain that it is Dr. Ngubane who told you that the man behind businessman email is Mr. Richard Seleka?
Yes, he did.
Is there any chance that you could be mistaken about that and that maybe you told him?
I did not deal directly with the Director General, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry?
I said I did not deal directly with the Director General, to tell the Chairman that. It would have been the other way around.
You are quite clear that you did not tell him, or it could be that you told him, but you can't remember. What is the position?
I'm quite clear that I wouldn't have told him that it was DG Seleka.
Yes. The fact that the emails from businessmen, info portal, happened before Mr. Seleka was appointed as DG of the Department of Public Enterprises. Would mean that if it was him at that time, it would be very strange because to your knowledge, to our knowledge, he had nothing to do with DPE or with Eskom at the time, before his appointment to DPE.
Well, to my knowledge, yes. I don't think he did.
Okay. Mr. Seleka.
Thank you, Chair. The other point then, my second point was, faced with this information, on the face of which it is apparent that Richard Seleke could most probably not have been the person behind the email businessman info portal. How, in your view, should the Commission deal with that aspect? Because we can only go by the documents before.
As I said, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the totality and you look at the correspondence in the Gupta leaks, for example, and you look at, the specific institutional emails, it is, in my view, a suspicion that Salim Essa was one of those people that controlled that inbox. I found other emails because I did not have direct contact with Salim Essa, and you can see from this. I would still say that it's highly suspicious that at various points in time, he was the one directing those emails. But there isn't, in my mind yet, because I don't have access to everything, that conclusivity.
Should I carry on? Thank you.
Continue.
Chair, then I was provided with the document which I showed Mrs. Daniels during the adjournment. I'm going to beg leave to hand it up, Chairperson. It goes with the documents we've referred to on page 945 and 948, the draft resolution that was prepared and sent to various SOEs. And then in respect of Eskom, we saw that that draft became a draft resolution for the board to adopt. What we're focusing on here, with the production of this, Chairperson, is the persons who created the document itself, the draft itself. Ms. Daniels might not know, but I've showed her the documents. It's an IT production, and I'll beg leave to hand it up. Oh, so you need to sanitize. So what has been handed up to you, Chairperson, is a copy of the email. The first page is two emails, which we have already referred to. Firstly, exchange between businessman and Dr. Ngubane on 28 September 2015. Dr. Ngubane then forwards that email to Ms. Daniels on the same date. We've referred to that. We can turn the page, and we will mark the document in due course for the purposes of the record. Then you have the draft document, or draft resolution, which was adopted into Eskom's document. Ms. Daniels, you follow?
Yes.
That's 2 pages. And then the third page is what has been drawn to our attention, Ms. Daniels. Now you have this document info at the top, urgent request, email attachments, and you have this blocks, read-only document, compatibility mode, and then you have protect document. Against that block of protect document, you have related dates. Last modified, 28 September 2015 at 2:25 p.m. Created 28 September 2015, 2:25 p.m. last printed today, 1:57 p.m. Below that you have related people, and firstly is the author, and it shows that the author is Manta Attorneys. Does that ring a bell, Ms. Daniels, with you? Manta Attorneys?
Mancha attorneys, I can assume is Daniel Mancha. He was the chairperson of Denel at the time, Mr. Chairman.
The chairperson of Denel.
Yes.
At the time, September 2015.
I will have to check, but he was...
At some point he was the chairperson.
He was related to Denel.
And then, last modified by, it shows the name of the person there, Salim Essa. And if you read this, together with that email from Kim Davis, where she says, that email I read, what did she say, Dear Salim, here with CV for Alesco board as discussed, the email of 16 July 2015. If you read the two together, it seems the commission cannot but come to the conclusion that the man behind businessman is Salim Essa. You see that?
See that?
Do you have any comment?
I still think that it is more than likely that it was more than one person, but I do not discount that he would have had something to do with Info Portal.
Yes. Chairperson, then you turn the page, you go to what Ms. Daniels has said is a template of a resolution for Transnet. Is that right, Ms. Daniels?
Yes, that's correct.
And you go to 10 again, that page, you go to the last page of this document. It has the same information as to the author and the person last modified. The author again, Mancha Attorneys, and last modified. Oh, here, last modified, I beg your pardon, by the same attorneys. For the purposes of the record, Chair, I would ask that the document be admitted as exhibit U18. It's going to have to be 0.5.1. And
Have you double checked what the last number was? Was it not 18.3?
it was 18.4, the last number, Chair.
Okay.
But I'm going to explain why I'm 18.1 at the end.
Now this one that you want to be admitted is at what page?
It's going to be at page, we will add it to the bundle at page 951.1. What I haven't done, Chairperson, is to admit the emails we've referred to
Yes.
and mark them as exhibits. And those emails, which are starting at page 874, could be admitted as U18.5. That is the businessman's email to Dr. Ngubane, and then Dr. Ngubane forwarding that email to Ms. Daniels.
You want us to start at 874?
Is it 874?
Hmm?
Yes, Chair. Let me, not 874, sorry. So, Richard, those emails, which I want to have admitted, are on page 944. Page 944. Together with it will be from page 944, and the
Yes.
related documents until page,
We dealt with these emails during Dr. Ngubane's evidence.
yes,
If they were there, they should have been admitted there.
yeah,
And they have to retain that exhibit number throughout, because otherwise you'll have confusion. Same documents are in different bundles, and in different bundles are known as by different names. So I think that's what we should do.
okay.
Either now or later, maybe during lunch break, you can have a look.
During lunch will be in order,
Yeah.
yes,
So
so that
that
it doesn't
we don't-
delay us.
So that they can be admitted where they primarily belong, and then reference to them can be made to whatever bundle they are in, and
Yes.
the exhibit numbers relating to them can be
Yes.
used.
Thank you, Chair. That will be done during the lunch, correct, Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Daniels, there's more emails exchanged with businessmen, but they come in June 2016. But I think this is the critical moment, what we have gone through now. That's the critical moment. So I would like, Chair, unless you have any questions, I want to move on.
Yeah. No, that's fine. You can continue.
Yes. Talking of Mr. Salim Essa, Ms. Daniels, you've met with, well, yeah, rather say that you have met with Mr. Salim Essa, as we understand from your affidavits, your testimony, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And can you tell the chairperson your first occasion when you met, the first occasion when you met with Mr. Essa?
Mr. Chairman, I met Mr. Essa for the first time in March 2015. As I testified in Parliament, it was on the 9th of March, but as I said to you earlier, with the Commission's team and using phone records, they have confirmed for me that it was actually the 10th of March. I was called by Machela Coco, who was the acting group executive for technology and commercial at the time, and I was called to Melrose Arch to meet with him. It was around about lunchtime.
You were called by whom?
Machela Coco.
Yes, okay.
He held the position of acting group executive, technology and commercial at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, de facto, he was my boss. I went to Melrose Arch and I waited for him at the restaurant called JB Rivers, because he told me I must wait for him.
Did Mr. Coco tell you to go to that restaurant?
He just told me to come to Melrose Arch
Yes.
For me, that was sort of a hub, and I thought that would be the easiest place to.
Okay. All right. So he didn't tell you where exactly at Melrose Arch you should go, but once you were there, you went into this restaurant.
Yes, and then I told him where I was.
Yeah. Okay.
He told me to wait there, and I waited for about an hour.
When he asked you to go to Melrose Arch, did he say why?
No, not at that stage. He wanted to talk to me about certain matters.
He wanted to talk to you about
Certain matters.
certain matters.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said when he
Okay.
called, but he wasn't specific. So I waited at the restaurant, and he came across, and he collected me. We then went across the road to an office building, and we proceeded to go to I think it was the first floor, and we walked towards an office in the corner, and at the entrance, I couldn't see, there wasn't any plaque identifying what the company name was, etc. We went inside. I had to hand in my phone at reception. We waited in a boardroom, and a couple of minutes later,
As you were going to this building, he still hadn't told you where you were going and what matters you were to discuss.
no, the conversation was quite limited. You know,
Yes.
This is like, where are we going? He said, be patient.
Yes.
It will become clear.
This would have been around about what time of the day or evening?
It was in the afternoon,
Yes.
round about lunchtime.
Around about lunchtime.
Or just after lunch,
Okay.
because people were having lunch at the restaurant and things like that. So
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically the time, but it was in the afternoon. We are then ushered into this boardroom, and we wait a couple of minutes, and I still asked him, what is this about? And he was like, be patient. And then this gentleman walks in, introduces himself to me as Salim Essa, and that he is the advisor to Minister Brown.
Is that what he said?
Yes.
Okay. Continue.
I was quite surprised, because I hadn't heard of him before. I looked at Mr. Koko, and he just sat there quite comfortable. Mr. Issa then proceeds to ask me, what do we need to do if we want to suspend people? And I was a bit perplexed, and I said to him, well, firstly, I'm not a labor lawyer. And so my area of expertise does not extend that far. But what I can tell you is that you need a very good reason to suspend people. You can't just suspend them willy-nilly. It's at that stage that he then proceeds to tell me, or sketches out, that in the coming days, the 4 executives, namely Tsidiso Matona, Dan Marokani, Solofelo Molefe, and Machela Koko, would be suspended. At this point, I look at Machela Koko because he's sitting in the room, and he's actually unfazed by this revelation. Mr. Issa continues to tell me that there would be an inquiry and, that these executives more than likely
And there would be an inquiry where?
at Eskom.
Yes.
Okay, he was talking about Eskom. And he just said into the affairs of Eskom. And that, certain people would not return.
Just repeat that.
And he said that certain people would not return.
He said certain people would not return.
Yes.
Did you ask him who he was talking about?
Mr. Chairman, at that stage, I was quite shocked. Even though I was a senior manager, I had not been exposed to this kind of behind-the-scenes machinations.
What was your understanding of who the people were that he was talking about when he said certain people would not return? And what was your understanding of where he was saying they would not return to?
Because he was talking of suspensions, my understanding was that they would not return to work.
Yes. Okay, continue. So you said you looked at Mr. Koko after hearing that his name was included by Mr. Salim Essa
Yes.
among the executives who would be suspended, and he looked unfazed.
He was unfazed. I still looked because he was sitting opposite me. Directly opposite me, and I looked at him, and I frowned in sort of bewilderment, because I was like, what's going on here? And he just gestured, be quiet. He raised his hand. He didn't speak much.
Did he say keep quiet? Did he say?
No, he didn't say keep quiet. He raised his hand as if to say, don't ask too many questions. So it was a gesture.
He raised his hand to you.
Yes.
In a manner that you understood to be,
Like to speak.
don't ask too many questions.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So he was not shocked by this revelation.
No, he was not.
Yes.
He was quite comfortable. He was relaxed in his chair.
Yeah.
I think he was, he had some a cool drink. I
Yeah.
can't remember what, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was like an ordinary conversation.
Yes.
I was quite bewildered. We left shortly.
How did you respond to this revelation from Mr. Essa?
Well, I said to him that this is not possible. There would have to be reasons for suspending people. You can't just suspend them without any reason.
Yes.
I remember I repeated that. For me, what was shocking was that he had said that in the coming days.
He said what about coming days?
That this would happen in the coming days.
Oh, okay.
And that was a bit, that was shocking for me.
Yes.
And I think when he realized that I actually couldn't add any more value to the process questions that he was asking, the conversation ended. Machela Koko proceeded to walk me out of the
Yeah.
building. And I remember asking him, how is this possible? And he just said, well, this is what's going to happen. And I then left and went home.
Did Mr. Koko remain behind?
He did remain behind.
Yes. Now, may be mistaken. I don't seem to remember reading in your statement that Mr. Salim Essa said at that meeting that some people would not return. Do you know whether you did include that part?
No, I didn't include it in the statement.
Why not?
I'm just, this is more formal. I spent a lot of time trying to remember, going through my notes.
Yes, it's just that it's an important part of that conversation, is it?
Yeah.
Was it not? Just like the suspension. The first is certain people would be suspended, and you are told the names of the people who would be suspended. That came as a shock to you, you have told me. But it must also have come as even greater shock that some people would not return if you understood that to refer to the same people who would be suspended, because it would mean the idea was that they would be suspended, but they would part ways with Eskom.
Well, at the time I didn't understand it like that, Mr. Chairman.
What did you understand him to mean when he said...
Because he was...
I'm sorry.
My apologies.
We should not speak at the same time. What did you understand when he said some people will not return? I thought you said you understood that to be a reference to at least some of the executives who would be suspended.
You see, he spoke about an inquiry.
Yes.
So I wasn't very clear at that stage. I said I wasn't very clear at that stage.
What were you not clear about?
Who he was referring to. That would become clearer later.
Yeah, but I asked you earlier on when he said some people would not return. I asked you what your understanding was of who he was referring to. And my recollection is that you said your understanding was that he was referring to the people who would be suspended.
That's correct, but it happened so quickly that I didn't make that connection at that point.
No, Ms. Daniels, we were speaking just maybe 10 minutes ago, or maybe 15 or 20. You said, Mr. Salim Essa said to you, some people will not return. And then I asked you what your understanding was of who he was talking about when he said some people would not return. And my recollection is that you said your understanding was that he was talking about the people who would be suspended, or at least some of them. Is my recollection of the evidence incorrect?
I'm a bit confused now, Chairman. I think it would have been the four of them.
Sorry?
I think I said I'm a bit confused now. So I think it would have been the four of them.
It would have been a reference to all of them?
Yes.
Yes. Now, my question is, how could you not include that part in your statement, namely that he said some people would not return, because if anything, it seems to me to be even much more important than his statement that they would be suspended, because it meant that they would part ways with Eskom.
It was not a deliberate omission, It was not a deliberate omission, Mr. Chairman. I've been preparing for my testimony for weeks now.
Did you include it in your statement to the Portfolio Committee in Parliament?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was.
Did you include it in your oral evidence before the Portfolio Committee?
I don't remember.
But how could you have not remembered on so many occasions over such a long period of time something so important that here was this person from outside Eskom that you were meeting under very strange circumstances, it seems to me from what you have said, telling you that certain executives from Eskom, and he mentioned them by name, would be suspended and would not return to Eskom. How could you remember that he said they would be suspended, but you didn't remember that he said they would not return? Because it seems to me to be equally important, if not even more important, than the fact that they would be suspended.
Mr. Chairman, for preparation for the commission, I had to go through my notes, and I brought my actually original notes,
Yes,
which I didn't go through at the time of giving evidence
yes.
in 2017.
Are those notes that you made at the meeting with Mr. Samuels and Mr. Koko?
No, they are notes of the meetings that I speak about later in the testimony.
Yes, but do those notes include this piece of important information, namely that Mr. Essa told you that some of the people would not return to Eskom?
They jogged my memory as to what was said.
Yeah, but did they include that or did they not include that?
There are references to it from the board side, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Seleka?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Daniels, in your affidavit, when Mr. Machela Koko phones you, you say it was in the afternoon, in paragraph 18, I think, of your affidavit. I can't recall whether the chairperson asked you, whether did he give you reasons why he was calling you to Melrose Arch?
No, he did not. He was not specific.
Yes. So he gave reasons, but he was not specific, or he didn't give reasons at all?
No, it just said, come meet me at Maldozot.
Yeah. Did you ask him for the reasons?
I asked why, and he said, we'll let you know.
Is that what?
I asked why, and he said, I will let you know.
I thought earlier on you said he said to you he wanted to discuss some matters with you.
Yeah, that's what we spoke quite a lot of times. So I may have the sequence wrong, but he wasn't specific as to, I want to discuss X with you. It's just meet me there and I will speak to you.
Did he say, when you asked him why, I will let you know, or did he say, there are some matters I want to discuss with you?
It would be more, I will speak to you when I will discuss the matters when I see you.
Okay, Mr. Selega.
Yeah. Was this the first time? I mean, as I understand it, this is during working hours.
Yes.
You were at work and you received a call from him. Is it the first time that he called you during working hours to come to him somewhere outside of the office?
At that point in time, yes.
In March 2015, when you were reporting to him at this time, is this the first time he's calling? Was this the first time?
Yes.
So he had never called you prior to this to come to him at Senton?
No, not at this time.
Yeah, no, any time before.
Not that I can recall, Mr. Chairman.
He didn't call you to come to him at Woodmead Shopping Center prior to this? because it's really around the corner from Eskom.
Yeah, not that I recall.
But you're trying to think, I see in your face.
Yes, no, the trip to Melrose Arch stood out for me. That's why I don't think, not that I recall that we'd met at other places.
So this would have been, it would have made it all the more strange that he was calling you during office hours, if he hadn't done it before, that he was doing it now for the first time during your normal office hours, and you would go to him to a place he doesn't even identify where in Melrose Arch. It will make it all the more strange.
Yes,
But you went nonetheless.
yes.
It would have been even stranger when he didn't tell you what he wanted to discuss with you outside of Eskom. Is that not so?
Yes.
Yes. And it would have been even stranger when, after meeting you at the restaurant where you were waiting for him, he took you and you walked to some offices and still he didn't tell you on the way to those offices. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. And when you came to this boardroom and you said he still didn't tell you, you waited for somebody to come in. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you must have found all of this quite strange.
Yes, I did, indeed.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the chairperson has already asked you. You know, how did you know where to wait for him?
I just parked in the central parking, Mr. Chairman, and I walked up and out of the escalator. I think the first restaurant that I could find was JP Rivers. Because it was locked, I sat down and I let him know that I was there.
Well, JB Rivers, Dr. Ngubane says he was there. Mr. Koko himself says he was there. Now you say you were also there. This sounds like some meeting point.
Mr. Chairman, for the first time, I listened to the testimony last week, and that is when I heard that they were at JB Rivers as well. So, for me it was strange, but that was the closest restaurant.
Had you been to that restaurant before?
Yes, I have been there before.
Many times?
Not many times.
A few times?
A
Or
few
once?
When I used to shop at Melrose Arch, I would go there. So
Okay.
Now, Mr. Kuko's, you've seen his statement. It's actually his affidavit. And he says, he agrees calling you to Melrose Arch. He agrees meeting with you at JB Rivers, but he says you didn't go anywhere else. The two of you stayed at JB Rivers. And he wanted you to advise him on a labor-related issue or his labor rights, because he was being threatened by Mr. Tsotsi to be suspended if he didn't reverse the suspension of Malisela Mr. Malisela Sakasimbi, you saw in his affidavit,
Yes, I saw that in his affidavit.
and tell the chairperson what's your response to that.
With respect, Mr. Chairman, Machela Koko is lying.
What he says happened didn't happen insofar as he says the two of you did not move to any other place. You spoke at the restaurant, and that he spoke to you about his threatened suspension. Is that right? So you say that is not true?
That did not come into the conversation.
Yes.
He collected me at JB Rivers and took me to the office.
Did he ever speak to you about what he is saying on another occasion and not on this occasion?
No, he did mention his tussle with Mr. Tutsi. But it was not about the pending or being threatened with suspension. What I do recall is subsequent later in the year, the suspension and the disciplinary matter against Mr. Sikasimbi did continue.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, he did not mention Mr. Sikasimbi's suspension to me.
Yeah.
He also did not speak to me about Mr. Totsi's threats. And he definitely did not ask me advice on an impending suspension.
Okay. Before I forget this point, which I should have asked earlier on. Now, when you left this meeting, the boardroom where you met with you and Mr. Gogo met with Mr. Issa on your version, did you still ask Mr. Gogo, why did you bring me here? Or did you not ask him?
I did ask him, Mr. Chairman.
And what did he say?
He didn't really answer me. He just shrugged his shoulders.
What was your understanding of what the purpose is for you being brought there to meet with Mr. Issa?
See, at that point, I was an Eskom functionary in the office, in Machela Koko's office. So when he had issues, process-related issues, or, questions, I would be the one responsible to get the answers for him, or, get the right people to speak to him. He did characterize me in the affidavit that Advocate Seleka refers to as his legal advisor at the time, but I was not in that position as legal advisor. I was in his office, and I generally was an executive assistant. So I think from that perspective, I would have been the go-to person. But I did not have the necessary labor process other than what I knew. This is the process that was followed at Eskom.
But my question is whether you were able, after the meeting, to understand for yourself what the purpose of that meeting was, or whether you did not seek to understand that or apply your mind to the question, why was I brought here? Did you make up your mind and say, this is why I was brought here, or did you not think about it, or you do not know why you were brought there and you were not told?
I was not told why I was brought there, Mr. Chairman.
Did you, having regard to what was discussed, did you analyze and conclude why you were brought there, or did you not do that?
It was difficult to conclude why I was brought there, but what I did do was then call, I called Dan Marokani and asked him to come and see me,
Asked him?
to come and see me,
Yes,
so that I could tell him
yes.
what had transpired.
Now, from what you have told me in regard to the content of the discussion in that meeting, while Mr. Issa was there, it seems that there are two issues that he raised with you. One, he asked you what process or what is to be done at Eskom if somebody needs to be suspended. And two, he told you that certain people were to be suspended and he gave you their names. Is there something else of importance that I'm missing out that he told you?
No, no, just what I told you today.
Those were the two
Yeah,
things.
key things.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, all right, Mr. Slager.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Daniels, what boggles one's mind is this, that this seems to be a secret meeting. Is that how you understood it? It's not a meeting, when I say, it's not a meeting arranged by emails. We're going to meet at Eskom offices on such a date, such a time. It's a phone call to you, come to Melrose Arch, you don't know where, who else you're going to meet, what is the agenda. No prior arrangement. You understand?
yes,
And that what gets to be discussed there are things pertaining to Eskom, matters pertaining to Eskom, by a person who is not an Eskom employee or official. Mr. Koko didn't say people are going to be suspended. Correct?
that's correct.
Mr. Koko didn't say what is the procedure to follow in order to suspend. You say it's Mr. Salim Essa who was talking.
Yes, that's correct.
So what boggles the mind is, how is it that they would call you to such a meeting to discuss such sensitive issues? Call you and not anybody else? Did they trust you?
Mr. Chairman, that has been an issue that, has always been in my mind as I had been sort of privy to some of these discussions, and my testimony later will tell you. It just appears that they did not really think that people would speak out,
That people would do what?
would speak out about what had happened. I didn't know Mr. Essa, so the confidence with which he spoke,
Did Mr. Koko, or let me put it, how was your relationship with Mr. Koko at the time?
at the time it was one of respect and trust. we had gone through a challenge to Eskom in terms of procurement, a litigation. And we worked quite closely together. So at that time, I had no reason not to trust him. He was fastidious, he was meticulous, he followed Eskom's processes. At that point, it was a good relationship.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Well, you see, one has, and you need to explain this, the public has received some negative reports about yourself. They've received some positive reports, you being called a whistleblower. And you need to balance these perceptions that if you go to a meeting like this, these people either trust you or you must be part of them. And maybe you need to explain to the chairperson, and I think that's the reason why the chairperson is at pains to find out, how do you get yourself into that meeting so that we move on from that point. You either are part of them, hence they are able to discuss these things with you, or maybe there's some other reason why they did it.
Mr. Chairperson, I cannot give you a reason for why they would trust me. I sometimes felt like a useful, just a useful functionary, just part of the background. But in my own, just from what Advocate Selek is saying is that, there has been this theory that I was part of it. And I would urge you to just look at the Gupta's modus operandi. I was not offered bags of cash. I was not entertained at the Saxon World residence. I was not in Dubai at the lodges of the Guptas. I certainly was not a member of the Oberoi Club. I did not get invited to any of the functions or any of the things that people have testified about. So it is something that I also don't understand, why there would have been this this blatant.
Well, I guess that assuming that you had no interactions with Mr. Salim Essa before, or the Guptas, anybody from the Guptas or their associates, Mr. Koko could bring you to such a meeting if he thought that he could trust you, that you would be, one, helpful to Mr. Essa, and two, that you would not disclose maybe this meeting or what was discussed at this meeting to other people. Do you think he had that trust in you?
I think at the time he did. He did. But he had also earlier told me that, I must tell Dan that we were not of the correct political affiliations.
Just repeat that.
I said, I think at the time he did trust me because he also told me to tell Mr. Marokani that we were not of the correct political affiliations.
And who is we?
Myself and Mr. Marokani.
Oh, okay. Mr. Slager?
Thank you, Chair.
Well, it seems to me, Ms. Daniels, that unless there is something else that comes out, you may have been trusted to be the person who would cooperate in this context, and that you would be able to advise Mr. Essa as to how at Eskom you go about if you want to suspend somebody, but that you would also keep the discussions at the meeting confidential. Because they wouldn't call you to that meeting just to tell you that certain people would be suspended. What would you do with that information?
No, I think at that stage, that Machala Koko probably thought that I would not disclose the information.
Mr. Slager?
Thank you, Chair. So, Ms. Daniels, and I know I've said when we started that there are matters you will deal with in the second time around. But what one sees here is from this moment onwards, because this is the beginning of the suspension. Once those officials are out that were to be suspended, you have new people coming in. You have Mr. Brian Molefe, you have Mr. Arnaud Singh. But let me focus on Mr. Brian Molefe. At the very beginning of his entrance, there is the Tegeta issue, seeking to acquire.
I'm sorry, Mr. Slager. I think it's necessary for the sake of completeness to also deal with her evidence about what happened after that meeting and the following day, because I think she said she called certain people.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
I just wanted to deal with the impression that gets created.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine.
That gets created. And maybe you can explain, I mean, we'll deal with the details later, that here you have this contact with Salim Essa in this meeting, and there is a facilitation of the transactions with Tegeta later on, which feature in your disciplinary hearing, that leads to the prepayment to Tegeta, for instance, of 659 million rand, and that you are one of the parties central in the facilitation of that prepayment. So you see that impression that gets created.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you see that.
I see that.
Yeah, so those things need to be explained. You don't just appear on the scene once, but you see the trend developing and where you feature. You may want to say something now, or you can say later.
I prefer to say later when we deal with it.
When we deal with it
Yes.
together. Thank you. Okay, so the meeting is over, and you go home, and we know that
Or
in
go
your...
back to work? Or do you go home or go back to work?
No, Mr. Chairman, I went back to work
Yeah.
because I was actually, I live in Pretoria, and I was actually quite shaken
Yes.
by the meeting, so I drove straight home.
And on your way home, I mean, that's apparent from your documents, your testimony, your affidavit, that you call a friend of yours, and paragraph 27. You call a friend of yours, and your words were, you say, I met this man called Salim Essa. Can he do what he says he can My friend responded, in all probability, yes. And then you get a call from a doctor, you will help pronounce that name.
Dr. Guinaud.
Yes, and the next day, Mr. Koko asks you about those telephone calls. But let me ask you about your friend. Because you didn't give us more details regarding your friend. Did your friend know Mr. Salim Essa?
No, Mr. Chairman, what he did say is he knew of Mr. Salim Essa.
He knew of him.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you know that your friend knew of Salim Essa? Because I see your call doesn't say, hi, Mr. So-and-so, if it's a Mr. Do you know Salim Essa? You simply ask him, I met this man, can he do what he says he can do? Did you know that he knew of him?
Well, as I testified in Parliament, Mr. Chairman, the friend that I spoke to was quite, he worked in government circles as well.
He worked in
Government circles as well.
government cycles.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a one-time advisor to Minister Msebisi Jonas.
Minister who?
Jonas, Msebisi
Yeah.
Jonas. So, and we had been friends for over 20 odd years.
Yes.
So I thought if there's one person that had some understanding of what the political landscape looked like, it would be him, and that he would give me an honest answer.
Well, I didn't see the name of your friend. Is there a particular reason you might not want to tell us who your friend is?
It is in my parliamentary statement, so I can tell you.
What's the name?
His name is Rastam Mohammed.
Dr. Mohammed.
No, Rastam Mohammed.
Justin Mohammed.
Rastam. R-U-S-T-U-M.
If I may, Chair,
Yeah.
paragraph 31.
Page 31.
Paragraph 31
Oh, okay.
of the affidavit.
Okay. Okay, all right. So you phoned him on your way from this meeting with Mr. Essa and Mr. Koko, and before you arrived at your office.
Before I arrived home, yes.
Okay. Did you go to the office and then went home? I thought you said you went to work, back to work.
No, I did not go back to work. I
You
went
did not go
straight.
back to
I
work.
went straight from Melrose Arch home.
Oh, okay. Around about what time was it when you left that meeting?
It would have been late afternoon,
About what time?
around about 3 in the afternoon.
Sorry?
The traffic around about 3 in the afternoon.
About 3 in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
the traffic was not yet
Was not yet
not
heavy.
yet heavy.
Okay. I think you said did you say you got Mr. Koko's call around lunchtime, or did you say you met him at the restaurant around lunchtime?
It was around lunchtime when we were at the when I was at the restaurant.
Yes, okay, between 1 and 2.
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. So from the meeting you went home.
Yes, I did.
So on your way home you called your friend.
Yes, I did.
And in that conversation you just asked him whether Mr. Essa could deliver what he said.
Yes. I just said, I met this man, Salim Essa. Can he do what he says he can do?
Yes, but what had he said he could do or would do?
Well, I was talking about the suspensions.
Yes.
Because the distinct impression was that, this was going to happen.
Yes, but he wasn't going to be the one doing the suspending, isn't it?
No.
Yes. So what were you talking about when you asked your friend whether Mr. Essa could do what he said he could do. He never said he would suspend the people.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's the impression that I got. That was the impression that I got, even if he didn't say that,
Yes,
In
but
so
what was
many
the
words.
impression that you got?
that he would be able to, arrange these suspensions.
He would be able to
Arrange these suspensions.
arrange the suspension.
Yes,
Okay, that's what you were talking about.
yes,
To get them suspended.
to get them suspended.
Okay, all right. So, and your friend's response was probably he would be able to do what he said he would
Yeah,
do.
he said in all probability, yes.
But did your friend know what you were talking about?
No, he did not. I did not tell him.
You did not tell him.
No,
Did you subsequently tell him?
no, I did not. He found out in Parliament.
But did he never ask you, what are you talking about? What did Mr. Essa say he would do?
I don't think we had that specific conversation.
But that is strange. You are my friend. If I get a call from you. You say to me, can so-and-so do what he says he can do? I respond and say, yes. I don't know what it is you are talking about, what it is that he said he would do. And then I don't ask questions during the telephone conversation. I don't phone you up later on and say, what were you talking about?
I don't recall that we had that conversation, Mr. Chair.
Do you agree with me that it's strange? Unless the two of you had a full understanding of what it was, that's why he would not, didn't need to ask you.
Yes, it may be strange to you now. At the time, I actually didn't speak much about Eskom matters to my friends anyway. And Mr. Mohammed lives in Cape Town, not here, in Gauteng. So it wouldn't be something that we would discuss on the telephone.
But what was the purpose of your call to your friend then?
My purpose was to find out if this man could, had that kind of power that he purported to have.
That's all you wanted to find out,
That's all I wanted to know at that stage.
and you found it out.
And the ensuing days actually showed more than that.
Even though your friend didn't know you were talking about Mr. Essa getting people suspended.
No, he didn't know. I didn't tell him that.
It's very strange to me, Ms. Daniels.
Well, I did not tell him.
Mr. Seleka, I don't know if you have one or two questions before we take the lunch break, or whether we should take it straight away.
We should take it. We could take it, Chair.
Okay, we are going to take the lunch break. The time is 1:10. We will resume at 2:10.
Thank you,
We
Chair.
adjourn.
All right.